And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show about St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. And each week here on the Cardinals Nest, we feature a different sports team, bring in a coach and an athlete. And today we celebrate and recognize men's hockey because the season is already fast underway. And we have Bill Moore here. Bill is the head coach for the Cardinals men's hockey team. Donnie Netto, of course, the co-host of the Cardinals Nest, our sports information director. And Bill, you're in your 11th season now already as head coach for the Cardinals. That has taken Donnie a bit by surprise, but I think it was a good kind of surprise.
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't seem like it's been that long, but it's hard to believe that 11 years have already flown by.
Nope, it's been a great time, and I enjoy being at St. Mary's more than anything, and it doesn't feel like work, put it that way.
Yep.
You know, Coach, before we talk about this season and the showcase, we had your son on last week. Now the head coach of the women's hockey team. From a parental standpoint and from a mentorship standpoint, talk a little bit about what that means to you in terms of having one of your sons be a head coach and really at the same school that you're at.
Yeah, and I think we tried to look and make sure, but I think right now we're the only school in the country that have son and father in the same school with two different programs. So we're pretty excited about it. It's obviously a huge sense of pride for me. Greg has been helping us coach since he was 13 years old at camps and things like that. So that part of it is nice. I don't think it mattered whether he was a head coach or an assistant in the past. We'd always bounce ideas off of him, and he's a lot smarter than I am. So it's nice to, go both ways where he can ask me something and I can ask him something. And he's got a lot of innovative ideas. He takes off of the NHL games and things like that, and so it's been a lot of fun, and again, a huge sense of pride for Andrea and I.
Now, one of the things he talked about on last week's show is he said once in a while you might get into a verbal disagreement, right? Is he ever right?
Always. Oh. Just ask him. We get into disagreements about half the time that Donnie and I do, but no, we definitely have our opinions on how to play the game, and they're not exactly the same, even though you'd think with all of the time we've spent together, they'd be pretty similar. But, I've tried to leave him alone. I've tried not to impose my ideas on him and let him run his own program. And I think right now, if you talk to the women, I think they're pretty happy with the way things are going. And again, if he needs help, I'm here. And if he doesn't, I'll stay out of his way and let him make his own mistakes and get his own experience and be there if he needs me.
Coach, can you talk a little bit? I'm going to date you a little bit, but then I've got to date myself since we go back to kindergarten. But how has the game changed from a coaching standpoint? I know we had a great mentor in Coach Romanchuk, who was inducted into the Coaching Hall of Fame, which congratulations to another St. Mary's alum there. But how has the game changed, not only from when we played at Woodbury in the 80s, but up through now and in your time as the head coach here? How has it changed the most?
It's changed ridiculously. I mean, if I went back to my beginning days 31 years ago coaching high school, I would laugh at myself for what I taught back then. We taught get in the guy's lane, take their space away, things like that. Today, that would be interference. We would get yelled at if we ever chased the puck back into our own zone, and now we call it back pressure. It is so offensive, and the goaltending has probably changed the most. If you don't have traffic in front of the net, it's next to impossible to beat a goaltender at this level consistently on open shots. You've got to have traffic. You got to screen them and tip and do things. But in my opinion, it's less physical than when we played, more penalties. It has become a power play penalty game as far as the difference makers. But just the concepts we teach are totally different than what we did back then.
All right, so let's take a look a little bit. You had the hockey showcase this past weekend. Before we get to this year's team, though, really congratulations on a great season a year ago. You finished third in the conference, and in the hockey playoffs, the MIAC postseason playoffs, an overtime goal away from getting to the championship game. And that's really how tight the MIAC is every year, top to bottom, and last year was no exception. So a third-year finish, you do lose a lot of great players from last year's team, of course. However, a lot of outstanding contributors returning to this year's team, too.
No doubt about it. We've got 12 seniors this year, so that part of it is really good. Yes, there are guys that we're going to miss from last year's team, but you know, last year we missed the guy from the years before. Every year you're going to miss your seniors. They bring a certain stability to your team. They bring skill to your team, experience. Now this group has to find themselves, and in my opinion right now we're way ahead of where we were at this time last year. Our captains, our whole team, the leadership has been tremendous. The camaraderie has been tremendous. And more importantly, the buy-in to how we want to play the game has been very, very good. We get into the showcase this weekend, and just again to go back to what you're saying about how tight the MIAC is, there were 9 games this weekend, and I think it was 6 that were 1-goal games. 2 of them were overtime games. It doesn't matter whether you're playing the first place team or the last place team. It's a game every night. So you have to be ready to go, and you have to have guys that can finish and score goals to put those little differences away between the teams. But I think we're at that point right now where we're trying to identify who our goal scorers will be, who our playmakers will be, give everybody their roles. And I think because there's so many new players in the lineup this year, it's taken us a little longer to really define people's roles, but it's kind of been even better because they have really taken on the roles themselves, and now we can just solidify those roles.
You know, I know you hate to lose seniors, and it's always tough to lose them, but I know there's one that, personally, I'm not necessarily sad that he's gone, and that's your goalie, Phil Heinle. And the only reason I say that is because now, when our guest comes on, I know it's Jay, because Phil is gone, and they're identical twins, and I could never tell them apart.
Well,
Phil,
don't feel bad, I didn't either. You know?
Could you talk a little bit about Jay? He's obviously our guest in the second segment, and has been a contributor for 4 years now. This is his 4th year, but really his role has really changed from when he was a freshman here to the role he's in now.
Yeah, you know, I guess it goes back to his junior days when he played in the EHL. He was a goal scorer for their team, a point guy. Came here, and his first year he didn't have a goal. And trying to deal with his frustration and things like that, he became in a role of more of a checking line guy. And then sophomore year, he was much more of an offensive threat, had a bunch of power play goals, and just all of a sudden found the back of the net. It was like freshman year, somebody put a pane of glass in front of it, a pane of sheet, you know, and the next year he just shattered it, and they went in left and right. And then he has continued to be an offensive threat ever since. So right now he's been our 2-year captain for us. Absolutely phenomenal student, and just I couldn't ask for a better leader in our program right now. So he does everything we ask him to do, kills penalties, plays on the power play. He'll block shots if we need him to. He'll go out and score goals if we need him to. And the best part of the whole thing is not only is he talented, but he's just a tremendous young man. So I couldn't be any prouder to have him as a captain, and I couldn't be any prouder to have him represent our team.
Let's talk about this team, and we can start. Let's start from the back and move forward. You've got one returning goalie in Aaron Davis, who played both games in the showcase, allowed 2 goals, which is pretty phenomenal. Got to make you feel pretty good. Talk about your goaltending.
Aaron is really good. He was a Division I transfer from Lake Superior State. Split the duties last year with Jay's brother Phil, and this year he'll have most of the duty and the heavy load, the working. And he's done really well. I think his save percentages are ridiculous, 95% or 94% right now. Doing a great job in the net, and he just gets better with the more games he plays.
And defensively, you lost a lot there, but you do have some very talented people returning. Kyle Mee on the all-rookie team last year for the conference, so obviously you got to look to him as being one of the leaders of that defensive core.
We do, and last year we started 4 freshman defensemen. One got injured and had to have surgery, decided that he'd had enough surgeries and didn't want to play anymore, and Joey Mavrin. You've got Seth Camras back, you've got Ben Owen back, you got Alex DeBacco back, and then Austin Arnold back, and then the rest will try to find their way and make themselves into the lineup. Brendan McGuire is a returner that now has experience and could get in. Chris Wilhite. So our defense is looking very solid. I think in the past we've been a run and gun team, tried to outscore teams. This year we got to win games 2-1, 3-2, things like that. We can't expect to score 6 goals.
And if you talk about the forwards, we did mention Jay. He's the top returning offensive forward. You lost a lot of firepower when Kinney and Gruce both graduated, but you do have a lot of talent there that maybe this will be their chance to kind of step into that limelight.
No doubt about it. Kelvin Walls and Jared Johnson have been offensive contributors the entire time they've been here. Kelvin is probably one of the most skilled players in the conference and can set anyone up. We're trying to get him to shoot the puck a little bit more so he can put some pucks in the net. But he is absolutely a phenomenal player, one of the best players in our conference. Jared Johnson just has a work ethic that doesn't quit, and he'll get things. Chad Caesars has proven that he can score goals in the past, especially on the power play. So and there's more than that, but obviously we're tight on time and things like that. So we just have to find out who's going to do it consistently. Everybody can do it here and there, but we need to find those guys that are going to be consistent finishers for us.
And we'll find out some of that with your home game on Friday night, the home opener at 7 o'clock, and we'll have that game right here on HBC TV 25. Donnie and I will actually be on the call for that one. So.
Nice. Thank you. We appreciate you guys being there.
So be sure to tune in for that. Good luck this weekend against St. Thomas, a big conference opener. So, all right, stay tuned. We'll bring in Jay Heinle next here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC.
NASCAR racing is about a whole lot more than just cars going around a track. It's about people who drive, people who engineer, people who plan, people who know how to put it all together. Meet the people who make the cars go round every week on Raceline. Watch Raceline here every week.
It's a massive game in the National Women's Soccer League. Sinclair!
We need to make it to the finals and we need to win.
Where's that with the left?
I am inspired by the thought of fulfilling this dream.
Balls for Mewis. Oh, and it sneaks in.
The NWSL championship, it's up for grabs.
No team wants to go down without a fight.
What's a Southern girl? It's waking up before the sun rises. It's loving the simple things in life like the dirt roads that lead you home. It's working hard to get what you want. It's hanging your own stands, breaking your own ground, and strategizing every little move for that one moment when everything you've worked for is standing right in front of you. Even if I fail a million times, I keep pushing myself till I'm exhausted, filthy, and about to give up. And that's when the adrenaline hits.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest featuring men's hockey this week as they had their MIAC showcase this past weekend, and the home opener and conference openers, at least the games that count in the conference, start this weekend with St. Thomas. And we'll have the game against St. Thomas 7 o'clock Friday night right here on HBC TV 25. So Jay Heinle now, a senior forward for the Cardinals, joins us. And Jay, welcome again to the Cardinals Nest. You were on last week, or last year I should say, and one of the things we brought up a year ago is that you are from York, Pennsylvania. However, do you get to visit York much anymore. I mean, of course, after high school, you would have played junior hockey, and now you've been out here for 4 years, so it probably seems like a long time ago that you lived and played back in York.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's hard to get home during the season, obviously, busy schedule and everything. So it's hard to get home during the school year, and the past 2 summers I've had different internship opportunities where I haven't really been able to go home either. So when I'm home, it's nice, but it's not too often.
Before we talk hockey, we have to talk about your academics because you know people always think of hockey players as dumb jocks, and you are the exact opposite of that. Biology major, chemistry minor.
Yep.
You mentioned a couple of internships. Talk a little bit about that because it's pretty impressive the 2 internships that you have had the last 2 summers.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a whole, as a team, I think our academics have gone up ever since I've been here, at least. I know every year team GPA gets higher and higher, so I think that has to do with just the group of guys in the room. But personally, I think St. Mary's allows me to have that St. Mary's name behind me and allows me to get those summer internship opportunities to grow. And they've all been research opportunities, so they've all been very rewarding.
And what's the plan after this year? Are you going to continue your schooling or what's next?
Yep, so my plan is medical school. I actually just told Coach just yesterday that I got an interview out at a medical school back home, Hershey, Penn State Hershey. So we'll see what happens with that, but that's my plan for right now, and we'll see what goes.
All right, let's talk hockey.
Yeah,
that's why we got you here. Jay, talk a little bit about the weekend. From Coach talked a little bit about how he was happy with how things went from a player perspective, from the team perspective. But what did you take out of this weekend?
I thought it was a great weekend. I know we lost on Saturday, but it was a 1-0 loss. One of our goals during the season is to give up 2 or 3 goals or less in a game. And both of our games over the weekend, we did that. I know Coach Moore just talked about our goal scoring, and I think that's just one thing that was struggling in that first game, but we found it in our second game, and I think we just needed one to kind of break the ice, and we got 2 more in that game, and I don't see how it's going to be stopping for the rest of the year. So.
Well, and the other thing Coach Moore talked about is throughout the conference, there's going to be a lot of those 1-goal games, which you had a lot of last year, right? Almost half of your games ended up being 1-goal games. So maybe talk about that and the pressure that brings on the players. One mistake can be the difference in a game, right?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, every team has a chance to win every night. So every game, every shift, there is that pressure. But we really, I know Coach talked about Aaron Davis in the goal. I know we rely heavily on him, and we trust him a lot in goal, so it allows us to play with less fear. So if we do make a mistake, he is there to back us up. So he's definitely the backbone for our defense here.
What do you see as the biggest difference between this team and the one that you had last year that made it to the semifinals of the playoffs?
It's kind of hard to tell this early, but I think one thing that everyone will say in the locker room is that we are just a lot closer of a group. Don't know why, don't know how it's happened, but with the freshmen that came in, everyone's just clicking really well right away. On the ice, off the ice, everything. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that is different between this year and last year.
You know, Coach mentioned you're a 2-year captain. Do you feel your role has changed at all as a second-year captain than it was last year, or what do you see as your role this year?
I don't think it's changed at all. I'd like to think that my role didn't change too much getting to be a captain. I like to think that I was doing the same thing. Of course, there's a little bit more responsibility and everything, but from this year to last year, I'm trying to do the same things. Help mentor Jared and Kelvin, the other 2 assistant captains this year, and I think they're doing a great job. So in a whole, I don't think my role is changing too much.
You know, one thing that has changed for you for sure is you don't have your brother here anymore.
Yeah.
So what was it like playing with Phil all these years, and have you noticed that, and have you sort of missed that relationship between brothers and twins too, of course?
Yeah, of course I'm missing it a lot this year. I mean, we lived together our whole time here, or since I've been here. And he's obviously one of the main reasons I ended up coming to St. Mary's, because he was here the year before. He told me all the great things that St. Mary's has to offer, and I do miss him, and I don't know. It's definitely different not having him here.
Okay, now we got to get some things straight here, okay? Because this is the bizarre Heinle story, okay? They're identical twins. Last year, Phil was a senior. This year, Jay's a senior. They're identical twins.
Identical.
Okay, different
Same
years
age.
in school, same age. Okay, Jay's name isn't Jay.
Yeah.
Phil's name isn't Phil. Please fill everybody in on what
I
is going
can't.
on.
I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is. I know our parents was growing up because Phil's first name is Carl, so he just grew up being called Phil. I don't know where Jay came from Jeremy, but that's just something that happened when we were younger, and it just stuck. So no real explanation.
And of course, you played a second year of juniors, and that's why you didn't come here at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, of course, Donnie's real name is Donnie, but that's not what most people call him either.
So ask Coach about that one, that's for sure. And Kyle Me probably isn't calling me Donnie after yesterday either.
So Jay, another thing I want to talk about right away. You start off the conference season where the conference standings start to, will count now against St. Thomas. They finished first during the regular season last year, runners up in the conference tournament. So talk a little bit about facing St. Thomas right away, what we're going to expect to see Friday night here on HBC.
I mean, it's going to be a great game. I think if you look at our schedule at the beginning, we have a lot of tough teams, a lot of tough opponents here to start. But I think we're just going to go out and try and play like we played this past weekend, where we a fast-paced game, hard-working team. We're just going to try to stick with that and see if we can pop some goals in the net too.
And Friday night you play at home, and Dean had mentioned the home opener. 7 of your first 10 games this year are at home, so a lot of games at St. Mary's. What does that mean? Is there a big advantage playing on our sheet?
Absolutely. I think again, from my freshman year till now, the support that we have from the students has gone up tremendously. It's fun playing at home, and I think if we get a handful of wins here in the 7 games we have at home, we can build up some momentum for going into the second half of the season.
One more question from me, and then Donnie always gets to close
I
out
already
our
used it
student
on the
athlete. But one thing I want to talk about is the fact that Augsburg is in the conference. They are a top 20 team as well. So we mentioned St. Thomas, but Augsburg, another great team. They finished first actually in the postseason tournament last year. So up and down the conference. So what's it like playing in this conference when you face the Augsburg, the St. Thomases every night? We finished, St. Mary's finished third last year, so there's just a lot of great competition, isn't there?
There is, and going back to what we said before, we really have to be on our game every night. Whether we're playing St. Thomas or Augsburg, or if we're playing one of the lower ranked teams that you could call it in the conference. But I know every year, if you look at the point differential from first place to 7th or 8th, there's really not that many points in between those teams. So every night, every team has a chance to win. Really.
And then a quick little follow-up to that too. What's it like playing for Coach Moore? You said earlier with the academic side, it has a lot to do with the guys in the room. Of course, he's the one bringing in those guys in the room, right? And I know one of the things he really emphasizes is the academic piece and the character piece as well. So what's it like playing for Coach Moore? Since we don't get to see in the locker room and at practice and things like that.
I mean, it's phenomenal. He will seriously do anything for anyone in the room. He tells you that right when you first get there. And when he first came, like at 11 years you guys were talking, he really needed to bring in the guys with the character, because that's when the hockey guys weren't very well liked around. So he's been really working since he's been here to get good character guys in the room, and he has done that, and it's been fun playing for him.
Since you did such a terrible job filling out your questionnaire, didn't answer half the question. This is a biology guy with 4.0, and he didn't answer
because he's busy studying.
So here's my question to you. You're stuck on a deserted island.
Okay.
Which 2 teammates would you want to be stuck there with? And which 2 teammates would you not want to be stuck there with?
That's hard.
You're never going to live this one down.
No, I will not.
Be careful of your
I will not. 2 teammates I would. I would have to say Jared. I live with him. He always manages to find something to eat. So I think that he'd be a good guy to have around.
Scavenger.
The other one, I'd go with my other roommate, Ryan Charco. He would probably just make sure everyone's safe. And then, the 2 hard ones.
Oh my goodness.
I think he would get over me picking on him, but I'd have to go with Mike Simba, my other roommate, very close, where he's another science guy. I don't, for no reason, I guess, but I wouldn't want to be stranded on it. I see him too much during the year, so the final one. I'd pick.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, we all know around hockey that goalies are a little weird, so I think I'd pick Aaron Davis for being a little too.
I thought for sure
out
you
of
were
the shell.
going Chad Caesar.
Oh no.
I've got Chad in class, so I wouldn't have blamed you a bit had you picked.
No, he'd be another one like Charco, where he'd do anything to protect the three of us there. So.
All right, we're out of time, but Jay Heinle, or whatever your name is.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here on the Cardinals Nest. Good luck here this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, and again, be sure to watch on Friday night, 7 o'clock here on HBC, as we'll have the game against St. Thomas live here on TV 25. All right, stay tuned. Coming up next, Donnie and I will wrap up the Cardinals Nest, take a look at other sports happenings at St. Mary's here on HBC.
Has the movies.
Take a look at the wall.
Look at that. Look, effects has the movies.
What? Hey, look, it's effects.
Effects has the movies. Effects.
This is amazing.
Effects has the movies. Effects has the movies. Effects has the movies. Effects has the movies. The earth shakes. The crowd roars. Then, 10,000 horses launch forward at 300 miles per hour.
The quickest run in history.
When you race side by side on a rocket bound for glory,
Leah Pritchett is gonna do it.
victory is measured in a heartbeat. The NHRA all season long on Fox and FS1.
And welcome back here to the Cardinals Nest as we wrap things up on this show by taking a look at some of the other sports happenings. We focused today on men's hockey, Donnie, but women's hockey got started this past weekend. A couple of non-conference games, 2 wins, and wow, did they look good.
Yeah, they sure did. It was 2 really good, solid wins. They beat Marion 5-3 and then came back and beat St. Norbert 3-1. Congratulations to Bailey Went, who scored 5 goals in those 2 games. Had a hat trick on Friday night against Marion and then scored 2 on Saturday. Gets her MIC Player of the Week honors. She was also named to the D3Hockey.com Team of the Week. So a great start for her, and I know Coach Moore gets that first coaching victory, and so kudos to him. And really a good, solid overall performance. Tough losses for volleyball and for men's soccer in their season finales, and women's soccer closed out their year with a 0-0 tie against Concordia. So the fall sports, aside from cross country, are now in the books.
And Austin O'Hare in cross country looking good this past
absolutely.
weekend.
All conference in the cross country. He finished 12th individually. A great performance for him, and they'll close up their fall season in 2 weeks at the Central Regional. So we're looking for more big things from Austin and the rest of the Cardinals.
All right, we got to run women's basketball exhibition game at Winona State this weekend as well. That will be also here on HBC TV 25. That's going to do it for the Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching on HBC.